Attacks can't be prevented, but they can be stopped. Modern cyber attackers have already made it inside your network, but you have the upper hand. Find and eradicate threats with ExtraHop network detection and response, and shut them out before real damage is done. Learn the advanced techniques attackers are using and how ExtraHop stops them with a live attack simulation. Register at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. That's extra HOP.
Managing and protecting the world's grueling number of endpoints, enabling Tanium's customers to see, control, and protect every endpoint everywhere. Tanium's mission is to provide certainty in uncertain times with the industry's only converged endpoint management. Trusted by the U.S. military and the majority of the Fortune 100, Tanium helps manage and protect nearly 30 million endpoints. Tanium, the power of certainty. Visit securityweekly.com/Tanium to learn more. When it comes to cybersecurity, the biggest threats are the ones you never see coming. SecureWorks detects and responds to cyber attackers' ever-changing tactics. We come armed with Taegis, a security analytics platform designed to recognize attacks and stop them before they do harm. SecureWorks, defending every corner of cyberspace. Learn more at securityweekly.com/SecureWorks. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. You can now find us on Instagram. Follow us for highlight reels, giveaway announcements, and more at SecWeekly. Yeah, I've been trying to engage with SecWeekly a little bit on there. I've been seeing those pop up. And now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW299 if you want to follow along, or check out any of the links that we are going to talk about today, or maybe choose not to talk about. Sometimes we don't get to all the funding items, for example, but not a ton of stories for today. I believe there should be, we should have 15 on there. I added some late for my co-host. If you might need to refresh if you're not seeing 15, but there should be 15. And first one, Tyler, I thought it was pretty interesting seeing, I think it's been a while since we've seen a big round and valuation attached to it. So I thought it was super interesting seeing both in this case with Drata here. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one. 200 million Series C co-led by Iconic and GGB Capital. 2 billion valuation. I think up from 1 billion last time. I didn't dig into the previous. Yeah, up from 1 billion last time. So yeah, I mean, listen, to double your valuation in the down economy and in a world where the majority of cyber and high growth startups, high tech, high growth startups are taking 50% cuts, to double is absolutely out of control and amazing. Good for them. And here's the thing, like, we're in a world now where it's no longer about looking at just your potential for growth and giving you some kind of massive multiple on forward-looking revenue. Now, investors are saying, what's your path to profitability? What's your path to getting to high margins? What's your path to cash flow efficient growth of a business, right? And so I can't imagine that Drata got 200 million on a Series C with a 2 billion valuation unless they deserve it, right? It's kind of a difficult thing to get in today's market. So good for them for raising this.
Yeah, and they're the one that made them a unicorn was $100 million Series B round, which is also just massive for a Series B. And I believe they're competing with the likes of Vanta, basically helping you get compliant more quickly, get your SOC 2 more quickly. Sounds like they don't really lean on SOC 2 here, though. They talk more about PCI DSS, GDPR. They say they've got 14 plus frameworks here, but it's certainly a slog, and something that people have traditionally done in spreadsheets. So definitely, I think a place in the market, opportunities in the market for this.
And there's a big need for it too. I mean, they do list SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, GDPR, PCI, DSS. I mean, these are all things that are starting to be required by contract. So now when you do a contract with a big company, they are going to want to see SOC 2 or ISO 27001 compliance, or at least something along those lines, which makes a lot of the third-party vendor work easier. And so with those requirements, companies are starting to move in that direction if they haven't already. So something like Drata, if they're able to automate that or make it easier, anyway easier, because that's always a slog, as you said, then there's money in it. And I think it makes sense.
The other thing I'll point out, Adrian, is how we're always poking fun at crappy press releases on funding rounds and how half time you don't understand what the hell's going on. It's just a buzzword bingo. This is the right way to do it. Please click on the link and go to drata.com blog/announcing-series-C. They literally just take a very direct approach. Here's what we're raising. Here's what our valuation is. Here's the strategic players that are involved. Why now? And what's next for Drata? How are we going to put this money to work? And it's just a really straightforward blog post. I love the way they approach this. I mean, they have 8 to 10 well-known VCs / angels / individual strategics that are backing them on this thing. It feels like it's a healthy round, but I mean, you never know until you get into the covers, peel back the cap table and the dollars. It's tough. Yeah. It's tough to know exactly whether it's a good round or not.
I mean, it seems like they've had a lot of traction. They name drop some customers. And honestly, it's a value prop that's really easy to understand, right? Like I think that's part of the magic of this is that it's not that magical, right? Like there isn't really any magic. It's like people are doing this with email and spreadsheets. It really sucks. It takes a lot of labor to do it, and we make it suck less.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but yeah, good point on it being an excellent press release. Pretty long press release, covers a lot of ground, but yeah, there's no having to look up buzzwords or Gartner acronyms or anything like that here.
Yeah, the only other thing that I want to point out is potential nepotism in there. I just noticed. Recently, they announced Adam Aarons joining Drata as CRO and Tony Markovitz becoming COO, which is interesting given Adam Markovitz is CEO and co-founder. So that's kind of interesting that I don't know if Troy is a co-founder or a late addition, but certainly they're keeping it in the family.
Yeah, there's a couple of cases of that. There's the Orions, right? Behind, supposedly Tanium. Security's largest unicorn, Tanium. Yeah, which is a father-son team.
Yep.
We've got a few other fundings here. Sean, I don't know if you have an opinion on the. I thought it was kind of bold. The title they have here, Hyper, the leader in phishing resistant MFA. Like it's not just MFA anymore. Now we need phishing resistant MFA.
Hey, Sean, I gotta
MFA
ask,
that actually works.
Hey, Sean, I got to ask, isn't that like, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's not oxymoronic, but certainly is it like a doubling situation? Isn't all MFA supposed to be phishing resistant?
I don't know that it's supposed to be. I think we've definitely seen that it has not been. Certainly from an MFA perspective, there's a couple of issues with MFA, generally speaking. One is that someone can often be in the middle of that request and what the actual answer is. So basically you end up with the answer, the response to the answer, but it gets ported through another thing. So the attacker actually has the session. FIDO2 is really supposed to be the solution around phishing of credentials and MFA, because it's not replayable. It's not something that you can just send back over to the server. What I'm seeing here is with Hyper, they're talking about passwordless. So I think they're based on what I see in the PR write-up, it's probably something that uses FIDO2 or similar behind the scenes in order to provide this passwordless solution, because that's what's embraced by some of the largest vendors, such as Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, etc.
All right. So, yeah, that's a $25 million Series C1. I don't think I've ever seen a number on the end of a C round or any round before. So I don't know does that imply a C0 or a C2 is coming?
Great question. Tough to know. And not only that, 25 million tends to be on the smaller side for Cs traditionally, although given the compression in the market, that may become the norm, a little bit smaller on the C rounds.
Yeah, it's an order of magnitude smaller than Drata's Series C, which is the first one we talked about.
Yep, and I think both are outliers, Adrian, right? I think Drata's is an absolute insane high-end outlier, and this is likely on the lower side. There's probably a little bit of a normalization somewhere between the two.
Yeah. All right, we've got some Web3 security here, which I'm not sure it's really proven that Web3 is even going to be a thing. So, I think maybe a little bit premature to have Web3 security, but hey, here it is. It got $8 million in funding.
I don't know what to make of this. I wish I knew more about Web3. I feel like such a uneducated person on what constitutes Web3 as far as like what the difference is between Web2, Web3 from a security perspective. So I can't really comment on it other than it's, this one's specifically designed for Web3 security platform for the centralized, decentralized finance and smart contract application working via detection and interception of crypto attacks and blockchains. What?
Yeah.
What?
So, I mean, my take is look, decentralized crypto, smart contracts, all that stuff. There's just but see, the problem always comes back to, like, if you're detecting shady stuff in Web3, what if it's all shady? Like, how do you detect it then? Or like the whole, like an FTX situation, like the whole thing's a rug pull. Like it becomes difficult to detect shady transactions when they're all fundamentally shady. So that's where I kind of get stuck here on how you do this kind of thing. I'm sure there's some patterns that are no-brainers, that you want to maybe automatically block or put, like, I mean, it seems like fraud, right? Like this is fraud, but for crypto stuff, right? Anti-fraud stuff.
I honestly can't even tell. Doesn't even seem like English. Maybe they forgot an Oxford comma that's thrown me off. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just.
I think it's more than an Oxford comma. It's a little bit more than an Oxford comma.
Maybe they're using not even English. I really don't know. But to be honest with you, when I read this thing, I'm just confused. And maybe it's a PR fail. If it is, Cybers, please go, rewrite this thing and put it out in plain English so that the rest of us can understand it. Hopefully you got something here, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen more of Web3 than a concept, and a lot of the things that I've seen around Web3 have not been successful concepts based on a website that tracks Web3 fails. So it is very much built around the crypto industry and what folks are doing in that. I haven't seen a good reason for Web3 versus even blockchain. So we'll see.
And the next one here, Nucleo is developing a multi-sig blockchain infrastructure security protocol that will allow new organizations to move on-chain.
What? Like, please just state it in plain English. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know.
Non-custodial multi-sig Ethereum-based blockchain infrastructure.
Maybe I'm the idiot, Adrian. I hear that stuff and I just get so hyper confused. And then I realize I'm a fairly well-educated, well-experienced person who's been around the cyber world for 25 years. I'm supposed to at least get it, because if I can't get it, I can't imagine what other people are feeling.
Yeah. I'm just surprised there's still, these aren't huge rounds that we're seeing here. These are very small rounds, but I'm surprised any money is still getting thrown at it here. It's just, so much has been called into question, like so many huge foundational chunks of crypto has just shown that it's not very stable.
Yeah, and I'm with Tyler. A lot of it reads just like a bunch of crypto keywords. The platform leverages the popular zero-knowledge cryptography and advanced multi-signature to allow organizations to take advantage of Web3-based capital allocation and management systems. Sounds fantastic. Sign me up.
What? And at the end of the article, and this isn't part of the article, it's part of the website, which is nftgators.com. It says, sign up to the world's biggest crypto exchange, Binance, to buy and sell cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's just screaming FTX to me. Not interested. Full pass.
But wasn't Binance the one that actually did full pass on purchasing FTX?
Yes, they were. They were the hard
Yeah.
pass. We gotta have, Gus. We gotta have like a hot button for there's I forget what cartoon, like Simpsons or something, where the character says, what? We need to have a hot button for that, for these kind of press releases.
Some sound bites. We can.
Oh my gosh, yes. This totally deserves one of those sound bites.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Coinbase, I forget the name of the guy behind Coinbase, is the only one that ever sounds like he's talking any sense.
Brian Armstrong?
Yeah, Brian Armstrong. Yeah. And early on, like, he went after, he's like, please regulate the shit out of us. Like
please. Make it safe.
They have independent auditors come in and say, they actually have one-to-one funds, for customer funds stored with Coinbase. But outside that, like, I don't, almost none of it seems trustworthy. And I've got various crypto and things, and I never see an opportunity to use it. Has very little utility to me. The main utility of crypto is news items at this point. It's like car crash, squirrel stories, kind of like look how ridiculous look at the latest ridiculous thing that's happened.
Oh, and I mean, just think about it. Coinbase is probably the one that was the closest to being on the up and doing very well. And they were at a high of, I want to say roughly 350, like 340 something. And they're currently sitting at $42 a share. So talk about a massive dump in value.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, it's pretty common though, like a dump in value that much. We saw a lot of that. It wasn't just crypto, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, the high-tech, high-growth dumped in value from 50 to 70%, but this is pushing 90%, Adrian. This is a massive dump.
Yeah. A massive dump. All right, moving on.
That needs some graphics.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, maybe just a poop emoji.
Yes, there we go.
So Milton Security rebranded Threathunter.ai. I think they used to do NAC, and then they became I think they're like an MDR firm, MSSP MDR. So it was interesting seeing a rebranding going on here. And this is a bootstrapped company, so it's like typically you don't see a whole lot of rebranding because M&A is just so active in security. Yeah. You end up getting acquired before you even have a chance to rebrand.
Generally, we've seen it. when I'm advising companies, I always tell them, don't rebrand. You're going to lose whatever traction you've got to date. However, this particular one, the name Milton Security made me think of like a Brinks security truck. It was just a really poor name. So I think from a brand perspective, they were right in rebranding to Threathunter.ai. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. The only other one I can think of with a reasonably recent rebrand was when White Source went to Mend a few years back, which I never understood why they did that.
Wait, I thought they were the ones that rebranded as Human.
No, they went to Mend Secure, or just Mend.com or something.
Which one rebranded as Human? It was like Humans.ai or something like that.
Yeah, well, the thing that killed me about the whole White Source thing is they had been in market for over 10 years and built up so much brand on the term White Source that for them to switch to Mend had to be some massive reason.
I can't find it, but somebody rebranded as Human or Humans AI, and apparently it didn't work that well. I can't even. Yeah, White Ops. It was White Ops reintroduces itself as Human. What did you say? You said White Source.
White Source rebranded as Mend a year or two ago.
As Mend. So that's why I was confused. It was White Ops, which was I think Dan Kaminsky was a founder there.
It was Dan's company. Yep.
Yeah, and they rebranded as Human, all caps Human, which I thought. Well, as I just demonstrated here, it was really hard to find. Like that was like the 18th result I had to scroll down to finally find that. Yeah, and I think that they were anti-bot, as in like bots that infect your websites and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yep. Let's see. Moving on. I thought it was. I'm not sure there's a whole lot to talk about here, except I'm just kind of waiting to see the fallout. But number 7, Germany, apparently after 2 years of negotiation, basically said, yeah, we just don't see any way that Microsoft 365 can be legal under GDPR. And so it's technically illegal to use Microsoft 365 in Germany. And if it is in Germany, then, it's not anywhere else in the EU or anybody else who follows GDPR. So like this sounds like a huge, like a very disruptive thing, but I can't imagine companies are moving off of Microsoft 365.
So I'm going to ask you, Adrian, like, sometimes you see these things and they're done just for stupidity reasons at a government level, and they never get truly enacted. They never get enforced. People are like, okay, that's ridiculous. We're going to use it anyways. Is that, do you think, happening here where people are like, okay, great, it's banned. We don't care. We use it anyways because it's the best tool for the job?
Sorry, say that again.
So the question is, sometimes you see these enforcements and regulations at a government level. In the U.S., you have them occasionally, you can't do X. And everybody's like, okay, great, but it's the most ridiculous law ever, so we're just going to ignore it and do X anyways, right? And so do you think that I think this might turn into one of those kinds of scenarios where Germany and then potentially France say, hey, we don't think it's safe, we don't think it's secure, and literally all the businesses go, there's no other better option. This is the best tool in market. We are going to use this.
Right. Yeah,
I think it forces this scenario. It forces the situation where it doesn't matter what you regulate. We're going to do what we think we have to do from a business perspective.
Well, I mean, it's we've talked about Uber a lot and how Uber was always illegal when it operated. Like almost everywhere Uber spun up its services, it was illegal to do so in that area, and they counted on becoming so popular, that they would push the laws to get changed. And for the most part, that worked out pretty well for them. They were able to get popular enough, quick enough, that lawmakers just changed the laws rather than try to find them. Notably in Europe is one of the places where that didn't fly. That didn't work for them. And Uber does some food delivery and stuff like that, but there are still some countries. And I think there are even still some states in the U.S. and a few other places here and there, certain cities where the government just put their foot down and said, nope, that's not going to fly here.
But the problem is this is the first domino, right? So if you read the article that's linked in our feed there, it says it even goes so far as to say that Windows might be next. Germany's Federal Office for Information, BSI in German, has already expressed concern that Windows 10 and 11 operating systems collect telemetry data, including typing data and even speech to text, which would then make them in violation as well. Which, in response, German and French public schools, the public school system, has switched to Linux operating systems and other Office 365 alternatives for their educational needs. So they're even going so far as to say Windows might be too much. This feels like a way overstepped bounds by the government.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's a mistake to assume that this is going to correct itself. Certainly, there are services, their entire like cottage industries in Germany just because of Germany's data residency laws. So you'll see entire like Dropbox competitors, for example, that only exist because this data residency law exists in Germany.
Sure, I can
and
see
so,
that, Adrian, but now we're talking about an underlying operating system. We're talking about a fundamental operating system,
yeah.
one of the most frequently used OSs in the world.
I mean, it's been happening for a while. I mean, they're not the best examples, but Russia and North Korea dropped Windows a while ago.
Wow, I can't imagine Germany being that aggressive.
Adopted their own brand of Linux, or their own distros, basically. But yeah, no, we've seen governments before. I mean, it's small things here and there where we see governments officially adopt Linux. I've been seeing those over the last couple of decades, but this is quite a bit bigger. Because this is GDPR. This is EU wide. It's 28 countries. So yeah, and they said the Microsoft 365 ban spread to France. So already there's another country that's gone along with Germany and EU country.
And according to the article, there's concerns about it also affecting U.S. companies, Apple, Google, Amazon, so not just Microsoft even.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Apple just changing their how they handle ads on the apps and allowing cross app monitoring. Like huge percentages in ad revenue impact to Facebook and Twitter and other social companies there. So it's really interesting. I mean, obviously Apple's a private company, but I see similar impacts here, where legislation and regulation can suddenly have a huge impact on the market. But yeah, it seems like something where it'd be interesting to have somebody come on that understands this stuff a little bit better, because honestly, I don't really understand this well enough to see the future path. I've got to imagine Microsoft is doing backflips, currently, like trying to fix this, trying to undo this ban. All right, moving on. So the other big thing I wanted to talk about today was AI, and it's funny because on the one hand, I wrote like a mini essay. I'm sure you can see here, but on the one hand, AI has been kind of a joke, right? Like you've got all these people talking about how amazing the future is going to be because of AI, and then when people bring it up, we think about robots, falling into ponds, and we think of videos we've seen with Scottish people trying to use an Amazon Echo that's been trained on like a UK voice model. That was actually something I found out really early on with the Amazon Echo, was that like I wanted it to talk to me with a British accent, so I changed it, not realizing that it also changes the AI, the ML model for recognizing speech, also to UK. So if I don't speak, I basically had to speak in a British accent for it to understand.
Oh my God, please record that. Please record that. Please send us audio of that.
That was something I was like, wait a minute, like, why is it not recognizing anything I'm saying? And then it dawned on me, like the model goes both ways. Like it's not just changing the speech model, but it changed the language recognition model as well, because you have a different one for each locale. And obviously they didn't have a Scottish one, so those. You can find those videos. You don't need a video of me.
No, I 100% need a video of you attempting to speak with a Scottish accent to your Alexa or your Google system. And then we need to air that live on next week's Squirrel Story.
I don't know. I might need some more convincing. I might need a
couple bourbons.
Yeah, a couple bourbons, definitely.
There you go.
But yeah, it's kind of gone from a joke to all of a sudden, we've got AI generating these incredible images, and then they turn to text. ChatGPT came out, and I think it went. I think it was like 14 days or 20 days. It went from like being opened up to the public to having 1 million active users.
Yeah, one of which is me.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's just diving into it, saying, "Hey, what can we do with this?" And
so funny enough, I was actually doing a little bit of research on this for my newsletter I put out every Friday. So I asked ChatGPT, I asked it point blank. I said, "Will ChatGPT take over creative writing?" And its answer was just amazing to me. It said, "It's unlikely that ChatGPT or any other language model will take over creative writing. While ChatGPT and other language models can generate text that is convincing in some respects, they are not capable of the kind of creativity and originality required for truly great writing. Creative writing requires a human touch, and it is something that machines are not capable of replicating." And I thought that was such a perfectly AI answer.
Yeah, it's a great way to say there's nothing to see here. Don't worry about us. We're not going to take over your job or anything else. It'll be
until
okay.
We do.
We're AI. We're here to help.
But some of the examples I've seen are astonishing, though. Like if you do ask it something like, "Why should I be a CISO?" The result is good enough. You could publish it as a blog post, and I don't think anybody would blink an eye and guess that was written by an AI. It gives a excellent response to it. Also saw like people using it to draft contract language. So specifically, like in the state of Nevada, I need a contract for a property agreement. And like you give it this very specific requirements, and it'll just spit out the legal language. I was
I'm super impressed with what it can create, and I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be I think it's going to be one of those situations where it takes away a lot of the low-hanging fruit, right? It gives us the ability as human beings to move to the higher order, difficult problems and leave the small problems behind. So a couple things on it. It feels to me like, okay, we're at the invention of the assembly line back when cars were being assembled, right? Well, we just went from 1 car a day to 100 cars a day. Does that mean the world will no longer have jobs and everything's going to fall apart? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that we won't be the ones hand assembling cars anymore. And I think that's really what will happen here. The other thing is I was having a conversation today with someone actually who said that they went to the ChatGPT/OpenAI Discord, and there's a channel on there, and he said, if you want to have a good Saturday night, grab a bourbon or two and sit there and watch the output of what people put into ChatGPT. It's absolutely amazing, the types of questions that they're asking right now. It's mind-blowing.
It's astonishing. There's a few more examples I want to throw out there. So Recon InfoSec every Thursday has kind of like a 30-minute Zoom call they do where they do some kind of education on something. And today they were just showing stuff they were doing with ChatGPT. And like one of them, somebody basically just pasted a command line execution in there and said, "What does this command do? Is it malicious?" And it comes back and says, "This command is likely malicious as it attempts to disable security settings, download and decode a certificate, and execute a file. The command will likely download and execute malware on the system, allowing an attacker to gain access to the system."
Wow.
That's impressive. Then after that, they said create a Sigma rule that can be used to detect mimikatz, and it properly formats the code for a Sigma rule that will detect mimikatz.
That's fantastic.
They're specifically asking it. Another one, build me a Simplify manager, and Simplify is a company that makes a SOAR product. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a SimSOAR. Yeah.
Yeah, build me a Simplify manager that works with OpenAI instead of email rep, and boom, it spits out Python code.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with what the chat system has been able to put out as far as writing PowerShell or writing Python code to do certain things. I mean, I definitely see 2023 is going to be the year of ransomware generated by systems like this, and that's insane.
Wow.
So to come around full circle, like AI and ML have been buzzwords in the security space for so long, and outside of like next gen AV, most of it that I've experienced, that I've played with, has failed spectacularly. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, ChatGPT is out for 2 weeks, and people are like replacing, recs. Like I'm not sure we need this rec open anymore.
I mean, college professors are tweeting out about how the college essay is dead now. Like, you cannot tell students to write an essay on comparing and contrasting two different famous people, or talking about issues with a certain thing that happened in history. College professors have been grading it anywhere from a C to an A, and saying this changes everything.
Oh, it's 25 years too late. I may have done way better in undergrad if this existed when I was there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I hate doing predictions, but I think we're going to see some people do some really interesting stuff with this. In fact, somebody I work with was saying, "Hey, can we use this to write the text for some of the rules that we put together, because we just need like general, like we've got like 500 different rules. How do you remediate this alert that we give you, this security issue that we give you?" And you can just ask ChatGPT, and it gives a perfect answer on how to remediate it. And we have some language gaps too. We've got some Brazilian folks that it's clear when they write something that they're not a native English speaker, and this cleans all that up. So I'm not sure if we can legally use it. They do have some commercial, some pricing models for commercial use for this, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because a lot of these jobs, these are things that suck. Like we've got over 500 rules that have to be maintained, updated. Google Cloud and Amazon are going to change like where things are in the UI when you click things. So that has to be updated, and it's going to suck for somebody to one by one go through 500 rules and make sure that they're accurate. But if we can have an AI do it, man, that's a game changer.
Yeah, and this is so much better than the story time for children generation we talked about last time.
Yeah, that's 100% entertainment. I still intend to have that generate an ESW story for us.
Oh, for sure.
All right, take. I think Sean, you wanted to talk about the BMC stuff.
Yeah, this Eclipsium thing is pretty incredible. I got whiff of this a little while ago, and I was working with a customer earlier this year about helping them better secure their environment from a admin force and Active Directory environment. And one of the things that we were able to identify is going after IPMI, which is interesting. It's the Intelligent Platform Management Interface. So IPMI is effectively a computer in the computer in your typical servers that enables remote management, control. Effectively, this is the integrated lights out, or ILO, with HP systems, iDRAC with Dell. Every server manufacturer out there has some sort of lights out or BMC is another term for what that circuitry level is at the bottom level. So you have your hardware, you have the BMC, which is a baseboard management controller. You have IPMI that's incorporated into that, and then you have the different vendors that are using their own kind of layer to connect into that. But what's interesting about the BMC, the IPMI system, all these acronyms, is ultimately it provides access to the server hardware. So direct access to the NIC, direct access to the processor, maybe not the processor, but into the system that the processor is operating on, but direct access to memory. And so there's these critical vulnerabilities that Eclipsium worked on and getting released and coordinated across all these vendors to get fixed before even announcing it. And a number of these are they're very serious. We're talking about arbitrary code execution, default credentials, user enumeration via API to figure out even what accounts are accessible through these systems. One of the biggest issues that we've seen for sure with IPMI systems is the only way you get them updated to current secure versions is through firmware updates. Now, I was a server admin for many years. I never updated firmware if I could help it, unless there was a hardware failure or something else. So you don't update firmware. You have servers out there that are 4, 5, 6, he's older than 6 years old. These things have critical vulnerabilities in the IPMI system. And what Eclipsium is talking about is that it's even worse than a specific IPMI instance like HP ILO or Dell iDRAC. This affects every server hardware vendor out there that has ever put out a server that people use. And when you think about this at the next level of how bad this could be, servers run cloud. We don't have direct access to it, but servers run on the cloud infrastructure. So then you're looking at a situation that could potentially affect not just on-prem systems, but cloud. And I think this is just the beginning of what we're going to see around these sort of BMC vulnerabilities at the base hardware level, not even getting up to IPMI, which tends to be something that's customizable for the vendor itself. And so again, on-prem systems, we got to make sure that we update our firmware. This is something that's very important. If you don't have this on your list of things to do in the next couple of weeks, definitely check your server firmware, check your OEMs. This is important.
And the attack surface here, do you find that companies usually put this on, these on a separate management network? I know most servers have like a separate Ethernet port for connectivity to this, right?
Yeah, that's the designed method and approach, right? The challenge is that there's designed and reality. It's supposed to be out-of-band management, OOB. Right. The issue is that we've certainly seen that a lot of customers, especially on like Dell servers, they plug them in, it runs by default, it's just there on the network. And you, through a simple port scan, looking for the ports that ILO listens, connecting through a port scan for what HP ILO, Dell iDRAC, and the others, it's just a web server. So you just ping it with, a simple curl to whatever port that system's running on, and then you know what it's running on. And this could be a system that is actually running VMware that hosts, a number of servers in the environment. So there's different degrees of bad. This is one of the worst that it could be, which is attacking the hardware level of the computer that manages the computer, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, certainly I can see ransomware campaigns using this. They're always looking for, anything you can use to take over somebody's system, to take away control to it. Certainly if you own it at this level, you can, I don't know if they would be packaging up custom firmware or anything like that, but certainly if you can maintain access to that, I could see some situations where it's very difficult to kick out an attacker here, or they can just use this access to brick systems. I don't know if you have guest OS or host OS access from this layer, but it almost doesn't matter because you almost certainly have the ability to do maintenance with the hard disks themselves, wipe them.
And you typically get remote console access. So with remote console access, you can do whatever. And what's interesting about the article is it says that Redfish is the successor to traditional IPMI and provides an API standard for the management of a server's infrastructure and other infrastructure supporting modern data centers. Redfish is supported by virtually all major server and infrastructure vendors, as well as the OpenBMC firmware project. So we're talking about something here that is used by everybody. It's an API that's available. And as you mentioned, Adrian, this is supposed to be out of band. We're supposed to be putting these on management networks. The problem is a lot of the times they aren't. It's expensive. It's difficult to put these on a different network, to manage that with more Cisco routers or other switches that are another cost and makes operations more challenging. So oftentimes these are running on that same production network, and that's a big challenge. Like I said, you scan for it, you notice it's there, you go after it, you compromise it through one of the vulnerabilities that are there, or a default password as mentioned in the article, and it's off to the races for the attackers, because once they have hardware access to that server, they can do just about anything with it. They can pull memory. It's a little more challenging when you have the abstraction of a virtual server, such as VMware. But all you need to do is send a command to that virtual server, ESXi, for example, change the root password. Now you can hit it on the VMware side. Things get very, very interesting when you start attacking server hardware.
The other technical one that I found pretty interesting here, Sean, that I thought you might want to comment on is number 13. This bring your own file system, they're calling it BYOF technique to crypto mining. And it's interesting because it's one of those things where they're just using, just general open source software that's out there. But one of the things, I see it helping on two sides. So generally, as an attacker, you don't know exactly what kind of environment you're going to encounter. So the more like platform agnostic you can get with your attack tools, the better. Because you can be assured they're going to work no matter what you come across. And then the other, because this tool called proot, it basically creates a file system, allows you to run binaries within this. It's almost like creating a container and a host, right? And the other nice thing about it is evading detection, because I imagine unless you're looking for proot itself running, you're not going to have any visibility into what's happening within this container. And it's not a container. I shouldn't use the term container.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I definitely have to dig into this a little bit more to see what it is, because it talks about typical tools that are used on Linux. Certainly, an attacker could drop on a Linux box, a Windows box, a Mac box. There's lots of options in your modern corporate network these days. And based on what I'm reading here, it's very interesting because it's got, it seems like it's primarily Linux based, but it'd be very interesting to see how this could port over to Windows and provide that kind of virtualized access to the Windows space in a similar way that happens in a non-Windows, a NIC space, such as something along the lines of Linux, Mac OS, etc. Just kind of scrolling through and looking at it. The whole right once run everywhere is very interesting.
It uses QEMU, which QEMU runs everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so think of it as a VM. It's somebody dropping a VM on a host, but QEMU is emulation. It's not virtualization. So again, it's going to run pretty much everywhere because any host can do emulation. Right. You wouldn't want to use a VM because only certain hardware has the right CPU features for you to be able to do para-virtualization.
Yeah, it's very interesting for sure. Definitely more reading for me to do.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and it should set off alarms, regardless. Like all of a sudden You've got QEMU running on a host. I just don't know if detection engineers have taken that into account, like if that's something that would pop up and alert somebody. All right, so our last two stories kind of go together. I think the Ireland moving to a 4-day work week, and they haven't officially moved yet. I don't think they just completed some trials with 4-day work weeks, and the title here is Ireland sees 100% success rating with 4-day work week trial, and it looks like Britain did a similar one, a 6-month trial where workers worked 4 days with no loss of pay, and it kind of brings to mind the what's it called? I'm going to blank on the name here, but it's the Parkinson's law, I think it is, where work expands to fill the time that it's given. So if you ask somebody to do a task and you give them 8 hours, they'll use those 8 hours. But if you give them that same task and ask them to finish it in 30 minutes, they might be able to also get it done in 30 minutes. So I don't know. I think generally companies aren't very good at understanding employee performance and productivity and what affects that productivity. So yeah, I think there's a lot of wasted time in with work schedules.
I agree totally, Adrian. My question on this, though, and I didn't read the actual research, I read the article only. How do you measure success? I mean, yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, the average rating for the trial was 9.2. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like if you ask 100 American workers if they want every Friday off, it's going to be even higher than 9.2, right? It's going to be successful. So, how do you rate success is, I think, the biggest question. And they said they asked the companies themselves what the rating was. And, if it's 9.2 in the companies and the companies are happy with the results and they're willing to give us more time off, take it. Take it. You'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, they said all of the 12 participating companies are planning to continue with the 4-day week schedule.
That works for me.
Yeah. No, I have the same questions. Like how do you? I mean, it's I think 6 months is long enough to get good results, but yeah, again, a lot of it comes down to, and we saw a lot of this with the pandemic and people moving to remote work, where a lot of companies and management's inability to understand whether or not work is getting done, kind of exposed how bad I think we generally are at understanding productivity. There's an interesting book from Jason Fried and I forget the guy's DHH, the other guy at Basecamp. Book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. And it kind of goes into a lot of that stuff. Like this is something that they've thought a lot about, where does work happen? How does it happen? How do traditional management and business practices get in the way of employees getting work done? So they go into that a lot. Like if you've got people going to meetings all the time, when the hell are they getting work done? Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of myths and a lot of room for improvement in understanding how work gets done, what the right amount of work per day is. Like if you think people are doing 8 hours of work in an 8-hour workday, like there's absolutely no way. I can guarantee you, like you're lucky if you're getting 2 or 3 hours of actual productivity out of an 8-hour day.
And since the pandemic, a lot of people are doing 8 hours of meetings and then have to do work after that. So I wonder how that fits into it also. Like, okay, I didn't get any work done in my 36 hours or that I had to do the work in. Now I've got to go ahead and do them Friday afternoon. And that might just make people more upset.
Yeah. And so another recommendation there from the same person, from Jason Fried, he does a TED Talk. This is back from 2007, but I always recommend people go watch. It's like 16 minutes of your life. That is well worth it, I think. And it's called Why Work Doesn't Happen at Work. And he dives into all that in, meetings and managers. He calls them M&Ms, like they're the number one hit to productivity are the meetings and the managers. And this was the result of it. For years, he would ask people like, when do you get work done? Where do you get work done? And thinking about, okay, why does work happen in the evenings or early in the morning or on the weekends? And when you look at somebody's calendar, it's because that's when they have time to focus on things and get things done. And it's not when they're in an office sitting at a desk. So yeah, very interested in that. I might have to dive a little deeper into that and see, how structured this was in terms of understanding what, success means and how they measured that. So the squirrel story, also about workplace trends, and a little bit more specific to French work culture, which is different from other work culture. And the reason this is here is Katie actually mentioned this last week, and I told Katie on our Slack, you've got to. I need more information on this guy who was fired for not being any fun at work, and she sent me this, and so the link there should be, you should be able to read behind the paywall here, which is slightly naughty on my part, I guess, but yeah, I'm using 12foot.io, but I mean, really, I'm not going to sign up for Fortune just to read this article. But yeah, it's interesting. Like it's work culture is so different in different countries. Like I found out there's some significant differences in just employment law and how the expectations of work culture in Brazil, because I work with a lot of Brazilian folks, and we I think a lot of people joke about France, about the work culture there. How they you ask them to work an extra day or an extra couple hours or something like that, and everybody riots. But yeah, I mean, coming from we kind of have a toxic culture here, especially being kind of the heart of this kind of VC and startup culture, where if you try to have any semblance of a life, if you're offline at all, you kind of get you get the opposite or equal treatment. You get treated as if you're just not taking it seriously. Like this isn't startup culture means that you've got to put everything into it.
Yeah, I think it's a culture thing for sure. I think it's a definition of fun thing. Everybody's got a definition of what's fun, right? And if you read the article, there's commentary in there about managers allegedly encouraging nicknames and posting distorted and made up photographs in the office. It meant to be fun, but what's one person's fun might be another person's definition of offensive or bullying or all sorts of different things, right? So everybody has a different view of fun. There's no way you can enforce. You have to have a fun culture. People are people. If they don't fit your culture, you don't have to hire them. At least not in the United States. But definition of fun is unique from person to person.
Yeah, and so I mean, straight out of this article, the defendant here argued that the company's fun culture was characterized by humiliating and intrusive expectations, like carrying out mock sexual acts and being obligated to share a bed with a colleague when traveling overnight for work. And wow.
Yeah, wow is right.
Yeah. So that's crazy. Yeah, and it's interesting, like what is deemed acceptable or not acceptable, in work culture in different companies. Like I often hear people who move to like the UK are just seriously underprepared for the drinking culture there. Like going out after work, like and we've it's funny because if you look at any breach database, like there's a significant chunk of left a laptop in a pub breaches in there, or left some company or enterprise data in a pub. Like pubs, search any breach database for pub and under the category of accidental data loss, and there's a surprising amount of data that's been left in, people just going from work straight to the pub with their work laptop and work devices and forgetting them there.
Sign me up. I'm going to go drink more.
All right. Anything else you all want to add? Any thoughts before we wrap here on any of the news or any of our interviews today?
No thoughts on the news, Adrian. Just how much I love you, buddy. Thank you for putting this all together week after week.
Nothing here, and I agree with Tyler.
Next week is episode 300. I will be flying up to Rhode Island, and I understand we're doing like a big holiday thing next Wednesday as part of Paul's Security Weekly. So that's like an all-day thing. It goes from like noon to 8 p.m. And then I'll be doing Enterprise Security Weekly from the studio up there. It'll be my first time at the studio, so I'm really looking forward to that.
That's going to be a freaking blast. Everybody definitely tune in next week for both PSW and ESW next week. I think both are going to be great shows. We get to haze Adrian up in the studio. I'll make sure they give him a hard time and do all sorts of crazy things to haze him. And yeah, I think it'll be fun next week.
I'll be speaking in a British accent to voice assistants. I'll be smoking
Please
cigars.
Please record that. Please record that.
Oh man. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me today. Tyler and Sean, this has been great. Great interviews today. Love the feedback on the news items here. Thanks for being here with me.
As always, Adrian, you're a rock star.
Ditto.
And a big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. I believe next week's is going to be our last one for a while. Don't quote me on that, but it's certainly going to be a big one. So next week I'll see you from the studios up in Rhode Island. Have a good week, y'all.